was some introduction, wasn't it? I've got a lot to live up to. Oh, let's hope. Surely Prabhupada? I'd like to start just by thanking everybody here. I was here yesterday for the Ladies' Sangha, and everything I've experienced since coming to Newcastle has been amazing. The devotees, the kindness, the skills. Look at this absolutely wonderful temple. Yesterday I was watching some of the young ladies making these garlands, and the care and dedication that they put into making them was amazing. Thank you so much. And they made this one as well. Then the hospitality. I really would like to thank Chaitanya Ballabha, Jagannatheshwari, Nadia and Haridas for welcoming me into their home and making me feel so very, very welcome. And last but not least, some old friends who are here to support me, I hope. It's lovely to see all of you, and as always, it's lovely to be here, so thank you. And especially on this very auspicious occasion, Rama Navami, the appearance of Lord Ramachandra. Now, a lot of us will know this story already. I'm sure some of the children know it better than I do. But what I wanted to do today is just go through, not 24,000 verses, you're okay there, I'm not going to read all of them, I'm not going to read them at all, but just talk through the story quite generally, and then have a look at what we learn from the story of Ram. Okay. So we'll start the story, as all good stories begin, with once upon a time. Once upon a time, in a wonderful place called Ayodhya, a king had 3 wives. King Dasarath had Queen Kaushalya, Queen Sumita, and Queen Kaikeya. And to Queen Kaushalya was born a son. He was born at midday. And that's important because of balance. Lord Ramachandra, as we'll come to see, signifies balance and dharma, or duty. And being born at midday gives that balance. So, Ram was born, he was the eldest son. Then Sumitra gave birth to Lakshman and Shatrughna, and Kaikeyi gave birth to Bharat. And the whole family lived very happily together. Very happily. But once during a huge battle, King Dasarath was wounded, and Kaikeya came to his rescue. She took him, she nursed him back to health, and for that, he gave her 2 boons, which she could ask for at any time. So 2 promises, really. Anything you want at any time, you come to me and tell me, I am so grateful for this. So you have these. And she waited. She didn't need anything, so she waited for this time. But later, as the family grew older, Ram was declared to be the heir to the throne. And he was married to a most beautiful girl, to Sita. He was going to be King Dasarath's successor, and there were great celebrations in Ayodhya. But the maid of Kaushalya was not happy with this. I think I got that right. Psyche. Sorry. See, I told you you knew it better than me. She was not happy with this. She thought that in time, Bharat would be pushed out altogether. Ram won't want him to be anything in the palace. You are not secure as long as Ram is going to be on the throne. Of course, this was rubbish, absolute crazy. But when someone's telling us things like that, we tend to believe it, you know? And so it was arranged that she would then ask for this boon. And what she wanted, number one, she wanted Bharat to go onto the throne instead of Ram. And number two, she wanted Ram to be exiled in the forest for 14 years. When King Dasarath heard this, he was astonished. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. This is terrible. Ram is my heir. Ram is my eldest son. But he had given his promise, and he couldn't break that promise. So it was arranged that Ram, Sita, and Lakshman would go to the forest for 14 years, and in his place, Bharat would rule. But Bharat did not want to rule. No, he said, Ram is the actual king, and I don't want to be part of that. So do you know what he did? He put Ram's shoes on the throne, and he looked after things, but he didn't rule. He didn't become king. Everybody in Ayodhya was unhappy. They were crying, they were sad, they were just a short while ago, they'd all been celebrating and had flowers and garlands and singing and dancing and lots of wonderful prasadam. And now it had all turned to tears. How can this be? How can Ram and Sita be leaving us to live in a forest? This isn't where they belong. But amid this sadness, Sita and Ram and Lakshman set out for the forest of Dandaka. As they were travelling along, they met a very hideous-looking woman. She took a liking to Ram. She said, "Oh my, look at this handsome prince. I shall have him for my own." So she approached Ram, and Ram said, "I'm sorry, I'm already married. Go look somewhere else, lady." So then she looked at Lakshman, and she said, "Well, okay, maybe, if I can't have Ram, I'll have you." And Lakshman said, No. Sorry, I'm not in the market for a marriage. But then she became angry, and she looked at Sita and said, "You are the cause of this. You're the cause of my unhappiness. How dare you separate me from my rightful husband?" And she went to attack Sita, at which point Lakshman jumped out, and he chopped off her nose, and he chopped off her ears. And she ran off, screaming. Now, Sapanaka happened to be the sister of a great demon, Ravana, 10-headed demon of Lanka. And she ran to Ravana. "Look what they've done to me! They chopped off my nose, and they chopped off my ears, and I don't like it. I want you to kill me. I want you to take her away. Take her away from Ram. He doesn't deserve her." So they cooked up a plan together. In the meantime, Sita Ram and Lakshman had set up their ashram in the forest. It was very peaceful, very beautiful, and they were living quite simply but happily in the forest. And one day, as they were sitting, Sita was threading flowers to make a garland for Lord Ram, and she looked up and saw the most beautiful little golden deer. And the little deer was coming through the forest. Hi, Sita. Look at me. I'm so cute. And Sita said, oh, Ram, please, will you catch that little deer for me? Please, Ram. Ram said, oh, Sita, you don't need to catch it. Oh, Ram, please. So Ram took up his bow and arrow and off he went to see if he could catch this little deer for Sita. And he left Lakshman in charge of looking after the ashram and protecting Sita. And all of a sudden, they heard a cry. Lakshman! Lakshman, help! And Sita, Lakshman, Ram is calling, go and see to him. Lakshman said, no, Ram has left me to take care of you. Lakshman, help! Lakshman, you must go. You must go and save Ram. So Lakshman said, okay, what to do? I can't leave Sita unprotected. I will draw a magic circle around the ashram. So he drew the magic circle and said, Sita, you must stay within this circle. If you leave it, you're in danger. And off he went to save Ram, who wasn't actually in danger at all. A little while later, along came a mendicant, a monk, begging, dear Sita, could you give me some water? Could you give me some food? My husband isn't here. My brother-in-law isn't here. I can get you some water, but I can't come outside the circle. Oh, Sita, I'm an old man. I am dying of thirst. Will you not take care of me? And again, because this is the tradition, she's a Brahmin, she's the wife of Ram, the wife of a king. She must honor, she must take care of the mendicants. So, thinking that she was going to cause offense by not offering the water, she stepped outside the circle. And as soon as she stepped outside the circle, Ravana threw off his robes. He grabbed Sita. You will come with me to Lanka. Oh no, Ram, help, save me. But by then, Lakshman and Ram couldn't hear her cries, and Ravana was pulling her towards his chariot. But one creature did hear. Jatayu, the huge bird, came down and he tried to fight Ravana, Ravana took his sword and he fought with Jatayu. He chopped off one wing and Jatayu came at him again with the other side and he chopped off the other wing and left Jatayu dying. He pulled Sita onto his chariot and off they flew to Lanka. When Ram and Lakshman returned, they found Jatayu lying on the ground. And they looked at him and his pitiful condition, and Jatayu, what has happened? Where is Sita? So Jatayu told them that Ravana came and tricked Sita. He took her on his chariot, and he will have taken her to Lanka. So at that point, poor Jatayu dies in Ram's arms. And off they go. Ram and Lakshman decide to set off for Lanka to retrieve Sita. And when they get very close to Lanka, they come across an ocean. And they wonder, how on earth are we going to cross this ocean? And nearby was an army led by monkeys. Some stories say that there were some bears in there too. They mention Jambavan. But they met Sugriv, king of the monkeys, and Sugriv had a colonel-in-chief called Hanuman. Hanuman was so strong. He was the son of Surya, the sun god and wind. And they said, we can help you here, Ram. We can help you to build a bridge across to Lanka. So together, they started collecting boulders, huge boulders that they could hardly carry. And they brought them to the seashore, and they threw them in the water, and they floated. At one point, Ram could overhear a conversation, and someone was laughing and joking. What are you doing here? Look at us, we're huge, we can carry these big boulders and we can throw them in, and they're all floating. What are you doing here? You can't do anything. So Ram went across, and there was a tiny little spider. No bigger than a thumbnail. But he was bringing grains of sand, and he was walking on the bridge, and he was dropping the grains of sand in between all the cracks to make them stick together. And Ram said, no, no, no. This is a wonderful service. This is an amazing service. How could we manage without this service? Any service rendered to Ram is so special, so important. And Ram was so touched by the devotion of the little spider. So when the bridge was built, off they went to Lanka. But Ram was worried that when they got there, Sita wouldn't know that he was coming. So he wondered, how on earth can I get a message to Sita? So he took off one of his rings and he gave it to Hanuman. And Hanuman had a very special quality. He could fly. He could jump and fly through the air. So he gave the ring to Hanuman and said, please go and find Sita. Tell her we're coming. And tell her not to worry. So Hanuman built himself up to a huge size, and he leapt across the ocean. And he flew to Lanka, found Mother Sita sitting in a garden, crying, lamenting. And when he arrived, she looked startled and, who are you? Where have you come from? Are you another demon? And he said, no, Mataji, I come from Lord Ram, your dear husband. No, this is a trick. I don't believe you've come from Ram. And then Hanuman produced the ring that Ram had given him and said, Mother Sita, this is from your Lord. He is at this time crossing the ocean to come to Lanka. He's coming to save you. All he asks is that you just wait quietly. He will be here. So Sita was very, very pleased at this. And Hanuman jumped back across the ocean to be part of the army of monkeys coming to Lanka. When they arrived, there was a huge battle. Big battle ensued. Lots of fighting. Oh, I'm going back. I'm sorry, I've missed a very important part of this story. Oh, isn't this awful? This is what happens when you get older. So as Hanuman was going to jump back over the ocean, he was captured. And they bound him with ropes. And they set his tail on fire. But rather than just jump in the ocean to put it out, first of all, Hanuman jumped all over Lanka and he set the whole city on fire. Then he jumped back to Ram. So as the soldiers came across, this huge battle ensued. And in the course of the battle, Lakshman was injured. And they were told that there was only one way that he could be saved. They needed a herb. They needed the Sanjeevani herb. But it only grew in the Himalayas. And that was a long, long way away. So again, Ram asked Hanuman if he would go and find this herb. So again, Hanuman drew himself up to his huge size, and he flew over the land, over the rivers, until he came to the mountains. But he didn't know which herb to pick. So what did he do? He picked up the whole mountain, lifted it as though it was nothing, and he carried it, and he came back to the battlefield, and Lakshman was saved because on the mountain was a Sanjeevani herb. So when we see Hanuman these days, he's always holding the mountain. What would they have done without Hanuman? My goodness. So Lakshman was saved, and the battle continued until Ram killed Ravana. He shot his arrows, and he managed to kill Ravana. And I know, out of the 24,000 verses, I've missed quite a lot. But this is just an overview, because we're going to have a play as well, which tells the story of Ram. So Ram, Lakshman, and Sita, and Hanuman returned to Ayodhya because their 14 years of exile is over. And there's again a huge celebration in Ayodhya. The people are so happy that they're coming back. They light lamps in all the windows, along the roads. They put scented flowers and scented liquids on the roads. And they're welcoming Ram. Bharat comes forward. Everyone is happy. Except one person. He's a washerman. And he's thinking, oh, I don't know. His wife spent quite a lot of time in the house of another man. And that should never happen. We don't know what happened while she was there. We don't know if she is still the chaste Sita that we knew? Just saying. When Ram heard this, he was so upset, and Sita too. And to prove her chastity, she walked through fire. And Agni, the fire god, protected her completely, and she walked through completely unscathed, because Sita's purity and chastity was actually never in doubt. But even so, when Sita was expecting her 2 children, her twins, she was sent to live in the ashram of Valmiki Muni. And there she stayed until such time as the boys were born, and they were Lav and Kush, and they grew up in the ashram and prepared for a good life and a kingdom. But Sita didn't return to Ayodhya. She returned to the earth from where she came. And as I say, I know I've missed a lot of ins and outs of the story. However, I would also like just to take a little bit of time to talk about what this story means to us. We say that Lord Ram is the epitome of Dharma. But what is Dharma? We say it's duty. And the best way of any leader, any king, any guru to show Dharma is by their example. So we look at different examples. We look at the Prabhupada's example of how he came to teach, how he came to explain to us how to live a life in Krishna consciousness. Where would we be without Srila Prabhupada and his books and his teachings? Who knows? We certainly wouldn't be sat here with the Association of Devotees. We wouldn't be chanting Hare Krishna. We wouldn't have kirtan. We wouldn't even know about prasadam. So the lives of these great people showing us by their example how Dharma works. And when we look at these examples, it's not that we ourselves immediately change and become like them. What it does is give us something to aim for. Because if you don't know what you're aiming for, how can you achieve anything? Yeah? And there was a lovely conversation because of a letter that Srila Prabhupada wrote, where he was explaining that actually we should be spiritually envious. Not materially envious, but spiritually envious. And again, what does that mean? And Prabhupada explains, Srila Prabhupada explains that spiritual envy is looking at your God brothers and sisters and seeing them do such a good job for Krishna that you want to do a better job so that Krishna might notice you too. And I was thinking that yesterday, watching the girls making the garlands and how beautiful they were, and thinking, I can't do that. I cannot put garlands together as beautifully as they were. And if I make a garland, I just like to thread the flowers and that's it. But these, they had ribbons, and they had bows, and they had the most beautiful combination of colours. So I was being spiritually envious because I want to eventually learn how to make those garlands when you go, so that I can also pray to Krishna to help me to understand what Dharma is. And in Bhagavatam, Dharma is shown as a bull. And we're told that the 4 legs of Dharma, the bull, are the principles, the pillars on which our lives should be set. Does anyone know what the 4 pillars of Dharma are?
Cleanliness, austerity, compassion, and truthfulness.
Absolutely. Cleanliness, compassion, austerity, and cleanliness. But we're also told that only one of those exists in Kali Yuga. Which one is it? Truthfulness. Yes. So I'd like to take a little moment to think about truthfulness. What does it mean to us? Does it mean that we should always tell the truth? This is a bit of a dilemma, isn't it? Because if I say, "Oh, Harry Bull, that's a horrible sari you're wearing," that's truthful maybe, but is it compassionate? Is it kind? No, it's not. So does telling the truth, is it always black and white? We have to ask ourselves these questions. We have to look inside, because just knowing the stories isn't enough. We have to apply them. We have to apply the tales that they tell to us, the truths that they tell to us. Because if we don't look inside and see what's going on in there, it's a little bit like having a set of books on the shelf that are still wrapped in plastic. And they never come out. "Oh, but I've got the books." That doesn't mean that you know anything about them. What's inside those books? Do you read them? Do you look at the pictures? Do you read those books on a regular basis? Because if you don't, you're not being truthful to yourself. We know that we have chosen this path of Krishna consciousness, but just being here isn't enough. You have to look inside yourself and say, what am I doing here? Why am I here? Ask yourself that question daily. And ask yourself, am I being truthful with myself? Am I saying, I'm going to be a great devotee, I'm going to chant 16 rounds a day. In fact, no, forget that. I'll chant 32 rounds a day. I'll bring everything that I need to Krishna consciousness. And I'll sit in the temple and I'll be a great devotee. Really? Is that what we're doing every day? Are we being truthful about that? I notice quite often, and this is a little bit of a subject for me, because I loved coming to the different temples, I loved coming to the different groups. And every time I come in, somebody along the line went, "Oh, Mataji, it's so good." And I appreciate that as a respectful gesture. But I think we have to be very, very careful not to enter into celebrity. You see this so often amongst very young people. They want their pop stars, they want their film stars, they want people that they can put up pictures on their walls, etc. And I think, again, we have to guard between that and respect. Because there is a difference, there's a big difference. Not every single devotee that you meet will be, I don't like to say worthy, but they won't be ready for that. Let's look at the devotees. Let's look at the person, get to know them before you put them on any sort of pedestal, because you will fall off. And personally, I don't want to fall off. That's just a little thing of mine. So please, respect, but not celebrity. We've got, 10 minutes left? Yeah? In those 10 minutes, I'd like to open the floor if you have any questions that you'd like to ask. So long as they're not too hard. I know I'm sat, as several people have said, in the mastermind chair. But I prefer the questions to be quite simple, please. There must be one question, please. No? Yes.
Thank you for the lovely class. I just want to know how you can ascertain what things you can take from a story like the Ramayana. You know, how do you discern what to take from it? Because we all have different natures, and so we have things that we like or we don't like. So there may be things in the Ramayana which might appeal to us, but they might not necessarily relate to any progress in Krishna consciousness. I just wondered if you could give
I think they will refer to a progress in Krishna consciousness if you're reading the pastimes of Lord Ram. But what I would suggest is that you discuss with your godbrothers and sisters. We need that discussion. We need to be truthful. We need to open our hearts to each other and say, maybe, I don't understand this part. What do you understand from that? And see what they've realized. Sometimes you'll have a godbrother or a sister who has a realization about something that you haven't got that bit yet. And you may have a realization that they haven't got yet. But if you don't share it, how will you ever know? But we become afraid of being that truthful, that honest, and saying, I don't know, I don't understand this. What do you get this?
I think pride can be there as well, that sometimes we don't want to reveal that we don't know something because of pride.
Absolutely. And again, by doing that, you will lose that pride. You will be able to open your heart and say, I'm lacking a bit here. None of us are perfect. Prabhupada is the only one here that can say he understands everything. I certainly don't. And I'm absolutely certain that I'm not being offensive when I say there's nobody in this room who understands everything. But we're afraid of being honest and open. But you must remember that that's the one leg that is left to us. If we lose that, to coin a phrase, we don't have a leg to stand on. Everything's gone at that point. But you had a question.
What is the role of Gilhari in Sanskrit, which in English called squirrel, with Lord Rama, God Rama?
Sorry, could you say again?
What is the role of Gilhari? It's a Sanskrit word. Gilhari.
I don't know this word.
It's called squirrel in English with the Lord Rama.
Squirrel.
In English, Sanskrit called
In-
squirrel.
I think he's saying about the squirrel, some people say it's a spider.
That's
some people
right.
say it's a squirrel, yeah.
In some versions, it's a spider. and in some versions it's a squirrel. The purpose was to show that even the tiniest amount of devotional service is worthwhile. Ram was so appreciative of the spider or squirrel. I used a spider. I'm sorry if your version is a squirrel, yes? So when Ram saw that the squirrel was making the effort to help, to progress, to build the bridge that he needed to get to Lanka, he was so appreciative. So when we're in front of the Lord every single day, what we do, if we're chanting our rounds, if we're offering prasadam, the little efforts that we make to serve are very, very important. Not just the huge gestures, the little things are also very important, and that was the significance of the squirrel.
Significance is that Lord Rama became so appreciative. He puts his 3 fingers on the squirrel, and that's
The stripes on his back, yes, yes. As Prabhu's just saying, Lord Ram was so appreciative of the service of the squirrel that he ran his 3 fingers down his back to thank him. And to this day you see squirrels with the 3 lines running down their back. There's a similar story in Christianity around this time, that Lord Jesus came and rode on a donkey, and ever since the donkey has a cross on his back. So the squirrel has the lines of Ram, the donkey has the cross, and animals are just as capable of offering service. They do it gently, they do it innocently. And again, you know, whatever service you're doing every single day, it's important. And just remember that it's not an insignificant service to do one small thing every day. And usually we can find time for that one small thing. We can read one verse. We can chant one round. We can offer one thing. And it may be that that seems to some people who are cooking feasts and chanting 16 rounds every day and dressing the deities and doing so much service. We aren't all living in a temple. So you have to ask yourself, what can I do today that will please Lord Krishna, that will please Lord Ram? What can I do to make him notice me? And you can choose your one thing, but do it sincerely, do it carefully, and be truthful with yourself about what you're doing. Any more questions? Every time you ask for questions, nobody says anything, but then afterwards people will come and Mataji, you know? Again, because we often think that we're the only person in the room that doesn't know the answer to that question. And that's never true. Oftentimes, if someone is a little bit brave and asks a question, everybody sort of, oh, I'm glad someone asked that, because I didn't know either, you know? Don't be afraid of sharing what's in your heart.
Okay, I've got a question. You mentioned earlier about asking people things, but I would like to know your words of wisdom on what the balance is, because I'm always scared of that I'm going to be like very pushy and egotistical. Oh, you know, give me your time and answer my questions. I don't want to be that kind of egotistical, pushy person. So how do you strike that balance?
You ask the question. And if the person you're asking the question of doesn't have the time, they say, I'm sorry, could we speak about this at a different time? It isn't for you to decide for them whether they have time to answer your question.
Right.
It's for you to ask the question and for them to either answer it or say, could we meet up later? I'm just busy at the moment, could we meet up later? Or, I don't know the answer to that, but I know where you can find it. But don't presume that people don't want your questions. Devotees that I know, I'm more than happy to answer questions. Don't ever be afraid to ask. You're not being pushy. You're not being egotistical. What you're doing is saying, please can you support me in my Krishna consciousness? And truthfully, a devotee will always want to help someone. I don't often quote scripture, but I will at the moment. Bhagavad Gita, Tadvidi Panipatena Pariprashnena Sevaya Upadikshanti Te Jnanam Jnaninas Tattvadarshana. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. Self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. Every devotee on this path, every devotee in Krishna consciousness will be over the moon to answer a question from a god brother, god sister, in order to support them on their journey.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Tendencies when we meet devotees is to say hi, how are you, Haribol, and sometimes plenty of Haribol relationships, So to get more than that, can you give examples of how we can take it further?
Again, put yourself in that position. Yesterday, I walked into this temple room and I think I knew one person fairly well. When I walked out of this temple room, I knew stories from yourself, from Jagannatheshwari, from the girls here, from Sani. And I made friends yesterday. I made spiritual friends because we took the time to get to know each other. I get what you're saying about the Haribol relationship. And we can't know everybody. We can't delve into everybody's backstory. But whenever possible, we can listen to their story. Because by listening to them, we might find that there's something we have in common. We might find that there's something we can do together to progress in Krishna consciousness. Oh my goodness, I didn't know you knew that. I didn't know that that was something you were interested in. But if we don't make that effort to get to know other people that we're mixing with, then what are we doing here? But it is up to us.
I was wondering, could it be like, because maybe asking that kind of might be too much for a person you just met and what their stories. So like maybe how's their japa getting on, or what are they reading, or just to bring out something.
Absolutely. Those little questions are so important because, again, sometimes there's this hesitation to approach devotees. But is there anybody in this room at the moment who, if you were asked a question by someone else in this room, would think, oh, what a bother? Is there anybody that would think like that in here? I don't believe there is. I don't believe that devotees would ever feel like that. If you want help, you have to be brave. You have to ask for that. And it doesn't have to be a big thing. Sit next to someone at Prashadam and say, Prabhu, I was reading yesterday that such a thing happened. Have you ever read this story? Because I was just a little bit bewildered by it, and I wonder if you have any insight into the story? Or, just as a friendly gesture, where are you from? When I go down to Bhaktivedanta Manor, I love to meet the guests, I love to greet them. And generally, the first question is, have you travelled very far to come here? Is it your first time coming here? And people are happy to talk to you, but a friendly face and someone saying, here I am, I'm here to help, use me, ask me. I'm not a mind reader, but if you have anything you want to ask, please go ahead, because I might learn something too. And it's that general friendliness, making people feel comfortable in the temple, being comfortable with each other, and opening your heart.
That's what attracts people to a temple, rather than they come here like it's a part of the sightseeing tour, because if they don't connect, then it can just amount to that. Whereas where they make a connection, they've got someone they can meet that they can feel comfortable with, and that can grow.
Absolutely. I think one of the scariest things in the whole world is walking into a room full of strangers. And a room full of strangers who are doing things that you don't understand. So, one question that often gets asked at Bhaktivedanta Manor by people who come to visit is, I don't want to do anything wrong. Because we don't know what's going on, We don't know why people are throwing themselves on the floor. We don't know why they've got paint on their faces. We don't know why they're singing these songs. But if you make a connection with someone, then they can find out. If you build a wall between you and, don't look at me, don't talk to me, then how can we share? Prabhupada explained that it doesn't matter what you know about Krishna consciousness. If you know one thing and you share it, that's a success. That's what we should do. So, a tiny thing, we know one thing, like the squirrel. He didn't know how to pick up the boulders. He didn't know how to throw them in the water. But he knew that if he brought sand, he could stick them together. Really good. Ram was pleased with him. So, make yourself friendly. Talk to someone. Just ask a question. I was once, I went to Rath Yatra one year, and a group of us went to Soho Street to see Radhalandan Ishwara. And we came out and decided that we'd get a bus all the way down Oxford Street. So in London, the buses, towards the back, there are two seats that face each other like this. And sat on one of those seats, in an almost empty bus, was a lady with a bag. And she saw about 20 devotees getting on this bus. And her eyes were like saucers. Oh my goodness, you could see what was going on. She was quite frightened, all these people. Bald heads, saris. We had my dear friend Paravida with us, and he had his big turban on, and he's larger than life. And they all crowded round and sat down round her. And she sat there with her bag like this. And I was fortunate enough to sit across from her, and after a couple of minutes I just said to her, "You going somewhere nice?" And she looked at me. I'm going to a prayer meeting. And I said, "Oh, how lovely. What meeting that you're going to? Well, it's a gospel meeting. I said, wow, that must be wonderful. Do you sing in the choir? Little things that make a connection. By the time we got off that bus, about 20 minutes later, I had listened to her story. She'd explained to me where she was going. She was going to a gospel church. She was part of the choir. She went every Sunday. She loved going. She loved singing. She said, it opens my heart to sing for the Lord. I said, absolutely, that's what we're doing. That's exactly what I'm going to do today. Lord of the universe is coming through London and I'm going to sing my heart out for him. And when she got up to get off the bus, she took some fruit out of her bag and she just said, oh, it's been very nice speaking to you. Please give this to your Lord. And that was from a terrified lady and someone who made a connection with her. It's not hard to do, but we're shy. But try it. That's all we can do, isn't it? Okay. Any more for any more? Because it is after 4 o'clock.
I think we need to tie down
Yeah.
now, yeah.
One quick question.
Yeah, it's just a deviation from what you were talking actually. Means how is Ram Navami connected to Krishna consciousness?
Ram?
Ram Navami connected to Lord Rama connected to Krishna consciousness. Are Lord Ram and Lord Krishna considered the same person, born in different yogas?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. In the temple at Bhaktivedanta we have deities of Radha Gokulananda, Sita, Ram, Lakshman and Hanuman. And they're both worshipped in the temple. Both just as important. Okay, so we do need to stop now. If anyone wants to come and have a chat, I'm more than happy to have a chat with anyone. Thank you so much for listening.
I'm just standing in for Chaitanya, so you don't have to worry so much. I'd like to thank Mother Rasesvari for giving a very lovely class and also for dealing very sensitively with everybody's questions. Rasesvari Devi Dasi Ki. We're going to continue the program now with some bhajan and kirtan. We're very fortunate we have Brinda Devi Dasi from Scotland who's going to lead bhajan and kirtan for us now. So 20 minutes, okay? Yeah? And then after that we're having the play. Thank you very much everybody. Thank you.